everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wild and Unprotected, a conservation podcast brought to you by Cape Class. If you like bracelets, you like conservation, go check out the bracelets at Cape Class. Thank you so much for allowing us to put on this show. Today's guest is coming to us all the way from the Maldives. His name is Fauz. He's a program coordinator for the RahVeshi Project, which is a part of Manta Trust, who some of you might know. We've had as a guest before on the show with their director. But without further ado, hey Fauz, how's it going?
Hey Ethan, it's going all right. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah, excited about this one. We've been talking to Jazz about this for over a year now since the program started, and she told me there was something going on in the Maldives with Manta Trust, and she was like, "Oh, this would be a perfect guest for the show." So I'm excited to have you on. How is life out in the Maldives? I think this is the furthest we've had a guest record the show from.
Pretty great. At the moment, it's a bit rainy. Here in the Maldives, there's only 2 seasons compared to the normal 4 seasons that we see out there. It's just a sunny season for a couple of months early in the year, and then the rest of the year it's a bit rainy. So it's okay. I'm not in the water as much right now. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I could imagine.
the
So
weather's okay.
during rainy season, you're not able to get out much, I'm assuming, right? Is that like a winter kind of season? Is that like the colder season?
The temperature difference isn't really that big. Even now, it's like 28 to 29 degrees. It does get warmer during the sunny season. Back in the day, I remember my grandfather telling me, and a lot of fishermen that I've spoken to before, they used to depend a lot on the sunny season and rainy season because back
Mhm.
then it was all sails. There wasn't any engines. It was small boats and sails which the fishermen went fishing on. So they went fishing on the sunny season mostly. They had to really depend on it, and then the rainy season would just rain. But now it's actually quite different. It rains during the sunny season too. It rains during the rainy season too, and it's sunny too. It's all mixed up, and it's just very unpredictable. And there's no 2 very separate seasons anymore.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, the winds still change, and it does get more rainy and more sunny. Yeah, it's very weird now. But yeah, 2 different seasons, temperature differences, only a slight difference.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it's absolutely beautiful out there, and I could bet it was an amazing place to grow up in. So tell me a little bit about growing up in the Maldives and your background.
Yeah, I grew up here. Well, I'm from the most southern atoll. It's called Addu. And my mom's actually from the north. My dad's from the south. But I grew up in the south. It's extremely beautiful here. I grew up playing on the beaches, swimming around the ocean all the time. It's a pretty great experience getting to grow up here. The islands are pretty small. The one that I'm particularly from is a bit bigger compared to the other ones that you can find. But very beautiful place to grow up. It's Maldives. It's just this chain of islands that's about 1,100 islands. And we've got 27 geographical atolls. And growing up, I got to travel in between quite a lot because I would live here during the year, and then when I would get school holidays, I would go up to the north to visit my mom's family. So that was pretty
Mm.
good. I got to see like the differences between the north and the south. And
Yeah, that's awesome. And the Maldives is primarily driven by tourism, right? So pretty much everyone
that's right.
who kind of grows up there moves into
Mhm.
tourism, and that's what you did, right?
Exactly. That's what I did too. It's just the easiest, well-paid job that you can get here because there's so many different resort islands. I think we've got about 150 resort islands, and these islands are just dedicated to tourism. And then there's like guest houses, homestays, dive centers, liveaboards, so many different tourist operators. So you can very easily get into the field, and you can progress in the field quite easily also. And it's really good, man. So that's what I did. I really didn't get the chance to finish my high school, and I think just as I turned 18, I dropped out. Just before the final exams, I got a job and I moved to work in tourism, and then I worked specifically in sales and business development for a couple of years
Hmm.
before moving on to conservation.
Yeah, so I know that moving on to conservation and diving is a particularly good story. So tell me kind of how you got into that.
Well, I grew up around the ocean, so my love for the ocean wasn't new. But I ran into a few challenges when I was trying to get my diving done because I was working in these five-star luxury resorts. It was all very expensive, like ridiculously expensive to get your diving done or whatever. But then I ended up meeting my current wife. Well, my wife. This only person I've been married to, just putting it out there. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. We were working in this resort together. I was in sales and business sales, and she was the marine biologist. And then we kind of started dating, and she got me into diving, free diving, and just into conservation as a whole, because she played a really big role in the resort to promote conservation. And it was a pretty good resort too about all of that stuff.
Hmm.
Sort of, they call themselves an eco resort, and everything was built around sustainability, conservation, marine conservation. So yeah, I learned a lot from there itself just by selling it and by meeting my wife too. And she kind of made me realize that, well, the reason why I was in sales and business development was because I wanted to, sell this beautiful product, my home, to other people so
Hmm.
people could come and see it. But then she made me realize that, yeah, it's great that you're doing this, but you also need to try and protect it because it's not going to be here in the future if you don't do that. And she kind of made me realize the importance of it, which is why I slowly started transitioning into it. I remember in my last job working in sales, I went to volunteer at this project in an island called Honolulu. So that's one of the remote projects in RahVeshi that we do up north. And I think it was probably the first project ever, and my wife got the chance to be on board. And I just went to volunteer, and I went on the research board with them. I helped with the research, some of the community work, and it was the best thing ever. I couldn't understand the fact that these people working for the Manta Trust or these marine researchers got up in the morning, got the chance to hop on this boat, and went out and got in the water with mantas for their job. I could not understand it because at this, by then, I've probably spent like 5, 6 years just behind the desk typing away every day, all stressed out, calling clients 24/7. Different thing. I got very interested in what they were doing, and this basically was what I wanted to do. I was sure of it at the time. So I slowly transitioned into it. I got my dive masters and instructors done. I got my free diving dive masters done, and then now I'm working full time for them.
That's awesome. It's cool to see kind of the evolution of your career path from sales to conservation and marine
Mm-hmm.
biology, essentially. It's kind of unconventional in today's world where most marine biologists will go through kind of the academia route, then they'll move
Yeah.
to their own platforms sometimes if needed, or they'll
Mm-hmm.
stick with currently established
Mm-hmm.
programs and that be that. You rarely ever see anyone cross over between industries at this point. So it's really cool to see someone, as in a remote location as you are in, to
Yeah.
cross over from the tourism industry to conservation and then get involved with an amazing organization like Manta Trust. And then to top it all, you got a wife along with it too.
I did. Yeah, she's the reason why I really got into it. And I mean, it was challenging. It still is sometimes when you don't have the academic background, but since she has it, she helps me quite a lot. And it's not just her, it's a lot of people that are within that trust as well. I think I was very lucky to be able to keep in touch with them and like work with them on different projects and to just get these different opportunities to work with them. So I'm very, very grateful for the team in Manta Trust. Tam, specifically Tam and Jazz,
Hmm.
honestly kind of like really put me out there. So very grateful to them for pushing me into this. Because I'm
Well,
super
I think
happy
I
now.
think we
I
could talk
love
about
what I'm
Jazz
doing.
real quick. We could talk about Jazz real quick and give her a little shout out. So to those who know Manta Trust, basically Jazz is kind of the media and PR. Is that correct, Faust? She's kind of all
Yeah,
over.
that's
She
right.
does everything.
She's all over the world. She goes to projects, does all this really cool photography, videography. Yeah, she just basically turns a project into a big story, and it's the most inspirational thing you're going to hear. Yeah, she's so talented. I've never met anyone as talented as Chad. She's so great. I love her to bits and pieces, and she kind of pushed me towards into the new projects, like one
Hmm.
of the more exciting ones that we have going down here. And I will always be grateful for her.
Well,
Amazing.
I think that'll make two of us that are grateful for her. And I think we need to have her on her own episode of Wild and Unprotected at some point, because she has so much background and that bleeds
She
into
does.
Manta Trust, and that bleeds into even, this project. Like I said, and this was on our radar
Hmm.
for forever. Jazz, this was the crap we said we were going to talk in our little email exchange before. I hope you like it. We're thankful for you, Jazz, and we'll have you on the show if you want to stop by. But back to the
I
mantas.
did.
So tell me a little bit about mantas in the Maldives.
Okay, yeah. So there's two species of mantis that you can find here in Maldives. It's the commonly found reef manta race, and the pelagic oceanic manta race. So the reef manta ray population in the Maldives is extremely healthy. I think we've passed the 6,000 mark now in number in population, and it's the largest known reef manta ray population in the world. We've got some really cool places that you can visit. One particular place is called Honeyfur Bay in Atoll. So this is one of the places where the reef manta rays aggregate, and one of the places where you can see the largest aggregations in the world, up to 100, 200, 250 mantas all in one day feeding. So that's pretty crazy. But the reef manta population is extremely healthy, and they're growing in number slowly. We've documented most of it, I would say, but there's still a lot of like remote places that we don't have access to yet, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the reason why we started the RahVeshi program. One of the reasons why we started the RahVeshi program too. And then we have the oceanic manta rays. The oceanic manta ray, we recently passed the 1,000 mark in population. And they're kind of weird. They just show up for about 2 to 3 weeks every year around April or March, and they disappear. Thing is, we've seen them in, I think, about 10 of the 26 geographic atolls, or 27
Mm-hmm.
geographic atolls, but they show up in this one particular island called Formula, and about 85% of the recorded sightings are from there. This specific island is it's different to all the other islands and atolls in the Maldives. It's just one pinnacle sitting in a huge lagoon. It's just this volcanic island that's got access to like really great depths just off the reef. So this
Mm-hmm.
attracts a lot of pelagic animals like tiger sharks and treasure sharks and all sorts of cetaceans. And we think that's the reason why the oceanic mantas show up here too. But the thing is, they just show up for a couple of months, couple of weeks, and they disappear completely. No one knows where they're coming from. No one knows where they're going, and the behavior that we've recorded is just swimming. So they're just swimming. We don't know what they actually do. So we
Mm-hmm.
think it's a highly transient population. They just come, hang out for a little bit, and they leave, and no one has any idea why. But the reason why we are doing this research and why this is one of the more important things that we're currently doing under RahVeshi is because oceanic mantas, from the satellite telemetry research that we've done around the world, one study says that they can stay within a radius or travel within a radius of 500 kilometers, and the other one tells us that it could be 5,000 kilometers. So in the Maldives, EEZ, in the Maldives waters, all sharks and rays are very well protected. Like, we don't have to worry about anything with the manta rays or the sharks, as long as they stay within the Maldivian waters. But for the oceanic manta rays, we don't know if that's the case, because they're
Mm-hmm.
capable of going really far, traveling really far distances. Our neighbors, Sri Lanka, they have the largest mobile fishery in the world. And our affiliate project down there, we have estimated that over 1,000 mantis get killed every year. And this is just by counting the number of mantis that come through the landing sites and talk to fishermen and the work that they do there, which, if by any chance that these two populations are connected, then we're in big trouble. Over, like, don't know, 9, 10 years of research, we've only been able to document 1,000 mantis total. Then it's very, very concerning. So we're doing a couple of things to get those answers. We're currently in the works working with the government and Environmental Protection Agency and a couple of other stakeholders to deploy satellite telemetry tags on these mantis, hopefully next year. So we have some answers, and we kind of figure out what's the best way to protect them. Yeah, so that's one of the more important and exciting projects that we're doing under RahVeshi, and that's about the oceanic mantas. And this is the specific project that I mentioned that Jazz pushed me into. She recommended me to the manager and kind of got involved in it. And now I go back every year. This year we had everything. We had the satellite tags, we had the mini pet tags, we had permits, everything we needed, but the mantis did show up.
Isn't that funny that that's how that works always?
It is so annoying. It's just like, guys, we're trying to help you.
Just be here. Like,
But
that's
yeah,
all we need.
hopefully
We have
next
we
year.
did the hard part. Just be here, please.
Yeah, just be here. We just need 4 volunteers. Just send four mantis to the surface.
How
Yeah,
are you guys
two
deploying
species.
those tags?
It's going to be on a pole. So the tag itself is about this big, and
Mhm.
there's a titanium anchor attached to it, and the titanium anchor sort of sits underneath the mantis skin. So we deploy it using a pole. I've never personally done it, but we've conducted a lot of different studies around the world on mobilids using the same technique. So yeah, it should be okay. But I'm very excited personally to get answers for this because I'm from the South and this is extremely important. These mantas are primarily showing up in the South too. So
Mhm.
we really need to find out what's going on before it's
Yeah,
too
and they
late.
have a major impact on tourism too in the Maldives because I know that that drives a lot of interest for people to come visit the Maldives, come stay at the nicer resorts, and then that's
Yeah.
one of the kind of excursions that they do is to go
Yes.
see the
Yeah.
mantas. One of the
Yeah.
things that I did want to make sure that was pointed out was the difference between the reef mantas and the oceanic mantas because it's a pretty big difference. You'll definitely know.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that difference?
Yeah. So the reef manta rays are smaller in size. They grow up to about 3.5 to 4 meters, I think, in wingspan if you measure it. And the oceanics are a lot bigger. They can
A
grow up to
lot.
about 7 meters in wingspan. So they're huge. They're like giant blankets in the water when they're floating and swimming away. But yeah, that's the difference between the size. And if you look at the coloration, also it's quite different. If you look at the dorsal side, which is the top, if you see a manta
Mhm.
underneath you on the drone, on the reef manta ray, the coloration sort of points out kind of like Y pattern, just over their head. But in the oceanic manta, the coloration, the black and white, spells out a very distinct T. It's very different. Like if you see it, and if you see the difference immediately, you will know this is not an oceanic, this is an oceanic. It's very easy to spot, and that's the way that I do it, because normally you see them from below you because they come up from the depths, like creep up to you, sort of. And if you look from the ventral side, the belly side, oceanics have a lot more shading than the reefs. They have got more like gray shading over their mouths, on their bellies. And the way how we identify mantis is by looking at their spot patterns. So like our fingerprints, every single mantis spot patterns are different. And that's how we ID them and document their populations. And with the reef manta rays, their main ID areas, the main spots that we look at to categorize them, because there's so many, is between their gills.
Mm.
But for the oceanics, it's lower down, so towards their sort of abdomen, belly area. Even if you look at the head to like body ratio, the reef manta ray's head is a lot bigger than its body, but the oceanic is smaller, the pectorals are larger. But yeah, those are the main differences. They're quite different.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And I think that's important
Hope
to,
that
for
covered that.
people
Yeah.
listening to the show and for tourists to understand that because there's a chance for citizen science there. You take those
Yes.
pictures, you
Yes.
post them on Instagram, and if you understand the differences, you could put that in a caption, and that's accessible to
Yeah.
organizations like Manta Trust, like us, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
pass to Manta Trust. So that
Yeah.
was one of the reasons I thought it'd be really good to spell out kind of the exact differences because one, it's a very, very big difference. But
Yeah.
two, it
It's
leads
big.
to science that's very helpful. Because like you said, not a lot of their migration patterns, especially for the oceanics, are tracked. So you need as
No.
many people as possible to get involved and say, oh, I took this picture here. And that
Yeah.
allows organizations like Manta Trust or for the RahVeshi Project to be able to start filling in the blanks in the map. So it's a very important piece, to science and conservation that allow people to get involved is just basic understanding of what is what. You can point out
Yeah.
a manta ray and someone will be like, oh, that's a manta ray. But if you ask them, is that a reef or an oceanic? They'll be like, that's a manta ray. Like we
Hmm.
went over that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll take that a step further. So thank you for explaining that.
No problem.
Well,
I think,
let's talk about Manta Trust a little bit, and let's talk about you joining the organization.
okay. Yeah. So the Manta Trust is basically a UK-US registered charity that's been operational since 2011. It kind of started off with uh, a guy named Guy who started the Maldivian Manta Ray project in 2005. So I think after his studies in the UK, Plymouth, he moved to the Maldives and started a manta conservation program here, a manta research project here. And after about 10, 12 years of research, he founded the Manta Trust, which is the larger organization. And in just a couple of years, all the way up until today, we've got tons of affiliate projects all over the world. And
Tons.
yeah, the Maldives is their flagship project because this is how it all started. But yeah, the Manta Trust now collaborates with all different projects, mobility projects all over the world with devil rays, oceanics, reef manta rays. They're at the forefront of mobility conservation at the moment, and Guy is one of the leading experts on mobility in the whole world. So that's how the charity is registered. We have a core operational team. They kind of work from home. Most of them are based in the UK. The Maldives Manta Conservation Programme is separate from the Manta Trust. It's now registered as its own charity since 2022. And so I work under the Maldives Manta Conservation Programme, but under the guidance of members of the Manta Trust. And like I said, I started off as a volunteer in 2021 for the Makunadu project. Got the chance to go back to the second project. So that's seasonal. Most of the projects, well, all the projects that we do in RahVeshi are seasonal. And the second project was about 3 months, and I got to go back as an intern. So that was my actual full, like, researcher, educator sort of experience, the first one ever that I've done. So the internship kind of really helped me, like, open my eyes towards manta ray research. It was extremely nerve-wracking at first because when you don't have the academic background, you just like, what are you doing here? What am I doing
What the
here?
are you guys saying? I don't understand.
What are you guys talking about? Like, if you told me to do like a couple of Excel sheets and shit, I could do that. But yeah, it was nerve-wracking. But then I had people like my wife. She was the project manager at the time, and Jazz was also on the team. So a lot of people that supported me and helped me through the process. And this internship really kind of taught me all the different research techniques that we use in manta ray research, how to be in the water with the manta ray, how to swim them, how to read their behavior, and also just like going out there, talking to the community members, talking to them about marine science, about their lagoons, about the megafauna and different corals and habitats that you can find just around their island. So that was very interesting for me, and that was one of the more areas that I was more focused on and interested in from that project onwards. So after the Makunadu project, after 3 months of that project, Jazz had recommended me into the Oceanics project, and I got the chance to do an internship with them too. So the Oceanics project, how it's all set up, it's just one guy named Simon, and right now he works on this huge luxury yacht as a videographer and a photographer, and he travels around the world taking videos. Pretty sick job. But basically, he was the guy who started the Oceanics project in Formula. It's his project. He started collecting all the data. He gathered a team, and he goes back every year for about a month, kind of after predicting when the oceanics would show up. And he's been doing this since 2018, I think. And I got the chance to be on that project at the time. But that was a great year. We had so many mantis that year. So many, just like on a dive view. Yeah, you're just very sure that you will see mantis. During those 2 weeks, we had mantis every single day, 2, 3, 4. But it was a really good experience. During that experience, I kind of understood how important the work that we do is, how important it is to go out and tell everyone to tell my community, to tell the people of the island and share my experience with them and tell them, hey, look, like we're doing this because we need to protect it. There's an urgency. So that kind of like really opened my eyes towards how important conservation is, and specifically for the oceanics. After that project in Formula, so that's also a southern island, and I got to go down to Antu, which is the most southern atoll where I'm from, and we started a pilot project there. So I got to work alongside my wife. It was just the two of us. We started a pilot project. Antu is also very unique case. There's a very small residential population of reef manta rays, just about 70 or 80 of them. It's a very small atoll compared to the other ones. And they just kind of stick around Addu. They don't really travel in between the atolls. We have documented mantis crossing from Addu up north or from another atoll to Addu. But normally it doesn't happen because they have to cross really large channels. And as reef manta rays, for some reason, they're not doing that. It could also be the... So yeah, very, very special population of mantis. And we've had data being submitted of them for many, many years, but there have never been any sort of research work conducted here. Then the only way people thought you could see mantis in Nadu was diving. So at a cleaning block that's quite famous that all the boards and the resorts come to, and you just sit there and there's like mantis all year round. Yeah, any time of the day you go to the cleaning block, you see mantis. So it's pretty much a guaranteed experience. Well, not as guaranteed because they're wild animals, but more guaranteed than other places in the Maldives, I would say. And also because of the fact that they're around throughout the year compared to other atolls where you can find them in a specific season, in the northeast season or the southwest season. But in Addu, they were around all year round. And people didn't even know about these mantis. A lot of people still don't. So that was quite interesting. And we managed to actually get into the water with the big group of surface feeding reef manta rays. So this is the first time this is documented. A lot of fishermen have done this before, but none of this has been documented. So that's what we try to do. We try to find mantis surface feeding. We went out on the boat a couple of times. Hired a local fisherman and his boat. I think the local name for boat is Dhoni. So we hired a local Dhoni and we went out looking for manta rays, and we also conducted a lot of surveys and interviews with the fishers here, trying to gather data, trying to find out where the biodiversity hotspots are, what the experiences with monoliths have been in the past, and we learned so many new things about it too. So it was pretty great kind of giving back to the community. I'm going out and talking to people about mantis that we have here in our home. And they're just so great. Like the mantis that you see here in Nadu, they're so different from all the other mantis up north. They're extremely friendly. They're too friendly, actually. They will pin you down onto the reef. You will not have anywhere to move. They're so friendly. They will like come up to you, play with your bubbles, and they're just all over you. Very different behavior compared to some other mantis. You can find friendly mantis in other places, but these guys, they don't have any concept of personal space. The other thing that I was able to do within the project was to conduct a marine education program with the school that I went to for my primary studies. So that was pretty cool. We had a class of, I think, 7th graders, about 30 of them, and we got to tell them all about the reefs in Lantu, about mangroves you can find here, about seagrass you can find here, all the different types of fish, megafauna, about the mantis, and we actually got the chance to take them in the water. And for a lot of them, this was the first time that they've ever been in the water to snorkel. So that was such a rewarding experience. It's one of the things that we do, not just in the RahVeshi program, but in most of the other projects as well. It's called Mudu Madrasa, which translates to Ocean School. The whole thing is a 6-month-long program, and it's got many different modules of ocean science, basically focused on the Maldives at the moment. And before, when we started this, why we started is because marine science in the Maldives, it's just very generalized. It's not very unique to the Maldives. So we kind of developed a program that's unique to the Maldives that talks about the Maldives ocean life and habitats. So that's what we do with the kids. We talk to them about basically their home. We tell them about their home and We get to take them out field trips to see the mangroves, to see the seagrass. They actually get to participate in some of the research work too. And the most rewarding part of it is taking them to see mantas. That's the best thing ever. That's the best feeling in the world. It just sort of like changes the kids' perspective to ocean science, to marine science completely when they get to see these animals underwater. A lot of them at the end of the program will come up to us and say, hey, I want to be a marine biologist. I want to be a dive instructor. I want to do what you're doing. So what should I do? What can I do? What should I tell my parents about? They get so interested in it, which is really great because this is the next generation that's gonna spearhead ocean conservation in the Maldives, and to basically through these programs inspire so many young individuals is one of the most rewarding and best things that we're currently doing in the RahVeshi program and the wider Maldives Manta Conservation Program group. So that was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. Going back to my school, giving back to them as a teacher, working with students, so it's pretty great. And all my teachers, most of them are still there, and they were so supportive of the work that we're doing. And yeah, I was welcomed with open arms.
I was going to say, that's awesome. I mean, on so many levels. I mean, I'm imagining a kid going snorkeling for the first time, and then not only are they in the water for the first time, but then encountering an animal like a manta for the first time. That must have been unbelievable. And then on top of that, you going back to kind of your old school, seeing your old teachers, and then they get to see your progression too, from a
Yeah.
student to an adult and to, a conservationist, and teaching that next generation. Like, there's so many impactful pieces that are there that are brought forth by manta conservation, essentially. It's so awesome, and I love to see how you're giving back to your local community through the work that you seem to love.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's one of the more important things that I would say that needs to be done. I think like 5, 10 years back in the Maldives, there weren't a lot of opportunities for locals to get involved in marine conservation. But currently, not just with the Manta Trust, there are a lot of other NGOs conducting research. There's, so many different ones that you can get involved with, and so many different opportunities, internships, apprenticeships, paid opportunities out there now, which makes me extremely happy because the way that we are going to sustainably protect our oceans is if the locals step forward and they do it. More people are in the water diving, seeing these animals, and there's just more information available out there, more education and awareness done, not just from us, but from a lot of other NGOs as well. The way the Maldives Manta Conservation Program, when it first started, was how it was structured was resort partnerships. So our staff were based in the resort, and this means that they can only conduct research in that specific atoll. But there's 27 more, and so many different manta populations spread all over the Maldives. And we have about 4, currently 3, but we used to have 4 resort bases partnerships like this. And it was great. Like we learned so much about manta rays through these partnerships that we had. We were able to conduct a lot of outreach and education work, but like I mentioned, it was sort of like restricted to that atoll. And in very few cases, we've been able to travel to different atolls, but it was still not like very accessible. So that's one of the reasons why we started the RahVeshi program, was to get access to these remote regions and reach out to all these different communities and talk to them about the ocean in the Maldives. So yeah, one
Well,
of
let's
the cool
continue
things
to
that we're
expand
doing.
on the RahVeshi program, and let's talk about, the real impact of it and why this is such a promising program for you.
Yeah. Well, it's still pretty young. We've just started it, I think, in 2021 was the year when we officially started the RahVeshi program. And currently we have 3 projects, seasonal projects under us. One, I've talked about all the 3 already. One is Matunadu, one up north. It's just a very remote, tiny island, and it's got the largest lagoon in the Maldives. Huge stretch of lagoon, but only one island, and where people live on. And we go up there and we conduct research. And from the work that we've done in just 2, 3 years, we've documented a brand new population that we did not know existed from before. About 80% of the sightings that we saw in Maconodu, all new mantis, all mantis that were not previously documented in our database. So that's one of the reasons why we started doing it. There's so many different adults, so many different mantis populations that we might just not even be aware of. But people know, fishermen know, so we're just trying to go out to different places and find these populations and document these populations. Formula down south is the same. It's the oceanics, and they're still not fully documented, I feel like. Every year, the population just keeps on increasing. We still don't know how big this population is, because it's just all new sightings all the time. So that's RahVeshi Programme formula, and then Addu as well. These three projects are currently the seasonal projects that are active in RahVeshi Programme, and we're looking for opportunities to expand to all different parts of the Maldives. Every single island has a school. Every single island has a community that we can go out to and talk to about what you can find in the atoll and the island. The outreach opportunities are limitless. You can do so much work throughout all these geographical atolls and islands in the Maldives. And for the mantis, I know for a fact that there's another population even further up north than Maconodu that we have not been able to document yet. So there's so many different research opportunities as well. And for us to have the best understanding of these animals, we have to find out as much as we can about the different populations, subpopulations across the Maldives. And the RahVeshi program basically involves all the projects that are done on local community islands, basically on islands where people live on. One of the reasons is the remote access that we get to the manta population, subpopulations from these areas. The other is to basically spread the knowledge that we have and learn from the locals from there itself. So every single project that we do, we go out and we talk to the locals of the island. We talk to the fishermen. We talk to the people that spend most time yeah, we are marine researchers, but no one knows the lagoons and the oceans and the atolls better than these guys. Every single survey I do, every single interview I do, it's so many new things that you learn. And they have all this knowledge about the oceans in the Maldives, but none of this is documented. So we try to do that too. We try to document this wealth of knowledge that these fishes have to try and understand the populations, the manta populations in that area. That's one of the very first things that we do. Historically, in the Maldives, people have always loved the oceans. People have always cared about the oceans because we have been dependent on it. This has been our livelihood. This has been our source of income and food for many, many years until tourism started just about 50, 60 years ago. So this has been the main thing. We relied on our oceans for basically everything. So it's not very hard to go and talk to my people about the oceans, but to actually talk to them about the research work, about the scientific side of things, and explain to them why exactly it's important to protect them, or just in general talking about different animals or marine biology has been very, very helpful, I think. And the feedback that we have received from the communities has been very good. They're very appreciative of the work that we've been doing in these different islands, and we work very closely with them. It's not just, this NGO going to an island, documenting the population and telling everyone what to do and what to do. That's not what we're doing. We're working with them and telling them why this is important. What's the best way to swim with mantis? What's the best way to drive your boats in manta ray hotspot areas? And it's been received very well by the community. Another major reason why we started the RahVeshi program is because there's a lot of development undergoing in the Maldives. One of the big things that's been going on has been reclamation work. So the government in the Maldives has been doing a lot of reclamation work in different islands, and this has been going on for many years now. Since I think when I was a kid was when the first reclamation project started in the Maldives, and slowly it's been increasing. They're doing it to have new islands for tourism. They're doing it on local islands, maybe to build an airport, to build more buildings, accommodation for the locals. And we kind of want the locals to advocate for that. I'm a local myself, and I want to tell people why this is bad for the environment and that we should always advocate against unsustainable development. For example, where I'm from in Addu, just a year or 2 years ago, they did the largest reclamation project this country has ever seen. They built, I think, 3 new islands and just extended all the other islands that are in the atoll. And yeah,
Wild.
there's honestly, maybe there are plans for these islands, but I personally don't know if anything's in place. They just like reclaimed all this and this. This place in particular has one of the most beautiful corals still that you can find in the Maldives. They're very healthy compared to the other areas. Even on the top reefs, you can find very healthy corals. Sorry. And yeah, they did this big reclamation work. And a lot of people actually support this because, development, why not, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we've been a developing country for a long time. People want to have more opportunities. People want to have more accommodation options. And I understand myself, like I used to support a lot of these projects, but it's really bad for the environment. Thankfully, the mantas here in Naddu are still here, so we want people to advocate against unsustainable development, not just reclamation work, but anything else that would harm the environment and basically destroy our natural resources. So my vision, and I think the Manta Trust vision, is as well for the RahVeshi program, is to spread out to different areas in the Maldives, grow wider as a project, spread awareness and education. One thing that I forgot to mention that we do under the RahVeshi program is train local community members, train locals into the field. So in all the projects that we do, we have local interns from that specific island on the project doing the research work, conducting the outreach work. So we train them. And I'm the living, breathing example of that. I didn't come
Yeah,
from a
you are.
scientific background. I came from a weird, non-related background. And how I'm working as a marine biologist, as a marine conservationist in the Maldives. And this opportunity is there for everyone and anyone that's interested. And we're kind of putting it out there. The Manta Trust is great at doing this. They've done it to me, and they're doing it to a lot of other people who are interested, basically. We do this in a couple of different ways. Like I mentioned, internship opportunities, volunteer opportunities, and just through the education program itself, you learn so much. We also currently have something called the RahVeshi Programme Scholarship, where we are funding 3 dive master students. So 3 students are currently doing their diving all the way up to dive master, which is the pro level, where you basically have an understanding of everything that's happening around you when you're in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one of the things. They're doing the dive master scholarships and they have dive master courses, and they're also doing a marine biology course. So this basically gives them the tool to go out into the field directly and start working in marine conservation. Hopefully it'll be with us, but any other field that they go into or any other NGO that they go into, this equips them with the necessary skills to work in ocean conservation or just in recreational diving or free diving. So that's one of the cool things that we're doing under the RahVeshi project.
Yeah. There are so many amazing
But
things that it sounds like you guys are doing there. And for such a young organization, it already seems like you all have started to hit the marks of success for an NGO or a project like this. Stakeholder and community feedback that's overwhelmingly positive, or just positive, I think in general, is a
yeah,
great part of success and a good metric to look at. Once you start to really infiltrate the community really starts to know who you are, what you do, and have a positive reaction and almost gravitate to it, you almost know your program is going to be a success. And then on top of that, when you can really start to document undocumented populations, that's when you really start to impact the scientific community as well. You put all this money, you put all this time, and
yeah,
even with one layer of documentation and research, you've made an impact. So hats off for that. And then on top of that, like you said, you're the living, breathing kind of poster child for the success of
yeah,
the program, is impacting the community and inspiring that next bit of generation to get involved, which in a place like the Maldives, like you said, that's growing.
yeah.
And it's important to have as many people as possible that are ocean minded, that understand development projects like the reclamation projects that you were talking about have large scale ecosystem impact. I think most people get caught up in the climate portion of it. As soon as anything gets labeled climate change, a lot of people turn off, and when you frame it from an ecosystem perspective and you can say, hey, listen, you are going to lose money. because populations like these mantas that drive
Yeah.
tourism are not going to be
Yeah.
here anymore. Now you're not going to have paychecks. People start to turn a
Yeah.
different ear and say, okay, so like we want development to happen. It just needs to be sustainable. And I love that you guys are advocating for sustainable development, not only for the ecosystem, but also for, the islands as a whole. So the fact that the RahVeshi project is tied to, three really impactful kind of pillars of the community, and you're already being successful is awesome. And I'm glad we got the opportunity to have you on the show because you give such a unique perspective, going from dropping out of high school to working on the tourism side to interning and volunteering to now being a program coordinator. Like that's exactly the ideal person that people in conservation would want to attract. You pull that into the group of numbers because there's so many people in that pool that you can pull in and say, hey, this is really interesting. And you get to do a super cool job that not many other people get to do. You get to go hang out on a boat and you get to, count manta rays or dive manta rays or work with children and see them, like you said, for the first time experience something just so beautiful. What's also amazing is the opportunities that it affords for people like you. Now, I know we had talked about you dropping out of high school, but you had also told me that you were going back, right?
I am. That's right. Also, thanks to the Manta Trust, because now I'm working full time for them, mostly remotely. So the time that I get to work from home, I've been going back to school. Currently, I'm doing a course that's over a year long. It's the equivalent of high school because I didn't finish it. And this basically enables me to apply for a bachelor's down the next few years. Hopefully next year I will start my bachelor's, but I'm currently in the second semester of the foundation studies that I'm doing. And I'm studying right here in Maldives in the National Uni. I've loved going back to school. I don't think I appreciated it as much when I was younger, when I was a teenager, but I've absolutely loved it so much. But yeah, even this basic high school level course has given me a better understanding of the biology and the chemistry and physics of the world. So I'm excited to pursue it. I think I'm going to be working full time, studying full time for the next few years, and hopefully get my bachelor's soon.
Hell yeah. Well, given the work ethic I've kind of seen so far from the RahVeshi project, I mean, it seems like you're going to knock it out of the park. Are you just going to stay with the local university, or is there other places that you're looking at?
I think I'm probably going to stay with one of the local unis here, just because I don't want to step away from the RahVeshi program, because it's in its early years, and this program is baby. Like, I really want it to expand. I really want it to work properly and be sustainable and have it running before moving on to anything else in life, because I feel like this is one of the most important things that needs to be done in ocean conservation in the Maldives. So I'll probably be based in the Maldives.
That's awesome. And I hope there are other people that tell you this, but the program, like you said, is your baby, is amazing. I've loved hearing about it. I mean, it's truly one of those like impactful programs that you see that get built from the ground up in such a quick time that is making an impact in such like an integral level of the community. It's just something that, I think puts a smile to my face. I know it puts a smile on the rest of the Manta Trust team's face, because this was the number one project that Jazz and the team wanted to show off, which is so awesome. You deserve the hype here.
I am involved in the project quite a lot, but everyone else is too. It's like it's the main thing that's been pushed in the Maldives. It's the thing that the Manta Trust is working on the most in the Maldives right now. So everyone's on this. The whole core team's on it. Everyone in the other projects are on it. Everyone's supporting it. Everyone's contributing in different ways, coming up with new ideas, coming up with and finding new funding opportunities. So yeah, it's definitely a huge team with everyone.
That's awesome. It's time for everyone's favorite segment of the show. It's where the show normally goes off the rails. For those new listening to the show for the first time, we're about to go through our Wild Stories segment of Wild and Unprotected. This is where the episode normally gets its title from, and normally this is where we laugh the most. So, Fauz, I hope you have a really fun time in this segment of the show, because I know our listeners do. So what do you have for our Wild Stories segment from your time out in the Maldives and with Manta Trust?
There have been a couple of pretty good days out on the research boat. And from just the short amount of time I worked with the Manta Trust, one I have in particular, I was working, I think this is when I was in my first internship with the Manta Trust in Makunudu, in the northern project
Mm-hmm.
that we do. And this project is very special because they've got about 300 or 350 mantas that we've documented so far in the population in Makunudu. And it's this large stretch of lagoon, the largest in the Maldives, and it's extremely beautiful. The coral life is very vibrant. The fish life is just anywhere you jump in, it's just full of large groupers and snappers, and you see all these different types of tuna as well, just nearby the reef. And I remember this particular day. Normally, we would go out on the research boats in the morning, but this particular day, we decided to go out in the afternoon. We would always ask the night, we would always ask our captain, who was a fisher, and some of the other community members what they think is the best time to go out. So if basically the fishermen saw mantis today at 2 p.m., will probably go out at that time because they're always out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're always out there. They're just like the best source of information that we get. So they recommended us to go in the afternoon. So that's what we did. But going out in the afternoon, it's extremely hot. We have a bit of shade that our puppy built for us on the boat, but it's not enough. It's really hot. And I was with my wife, Jazz, and another team member called Umar, and it was just the four of us on the research boat that day. And it basically started off with Umar flying the drone. So this is the way that we normally locate the mantis. This is the easiest way. We fly the drone, we find the mantis, and we drive there and jump in. So he flies the
Yep.
drone, and then he says, "Hey, there are a couple of mantis here." We're like, "Okay, let's go there. Let's jump in. Let's get the ID shots, get measurements, whatever, and then keep on moving." That's basically how we functioned in that project. And then he says, "Wait, there's a couple more." And a couple more, and then he just like starts screaming, and he's like, "There's a ton of mantas. There's too many. I can't count them on the drone." And he just like lost it. When we jumped in, I think there were about 80 or 90 mantas like
Holy sh!
feeding together. And this is the first time I think that we've documented a large aggregation, a large feeding event. And we've been waiting for this for a long time in Makrodu. This has just been building up for many, many days. Because mobulids breach just like other sharks and rays,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't understand why they breach. In the Maldives specifically, we've observed in the past that they breach a lot just before large feeding events. So we've seen so much breaching activity in the past few days, in the past few weeks. So we were like, okay, this probably means that this is going to be a big feeding event. But it just wasn't happening. We didn't see any of it. And then this day, yeah, we just saw like 80 man. So me, Jazz, and my wife, Tiana, the three of us jumped in. And I think we got the most of it, but it's just the three of us and 80 man, just trying to get all the ID shots. We barely had any time to rest. You go up, breathe, go down. Go up, breathe, go down. Yeah, but we kind of like stayed around each other, kept moving as a group. That was the first large feeding event that we've documented in Makamadu, and we haven't talked about these large feeding events to anyone actually yet because we want to kind of keep it under the low for now. But now Jazz actually has done a couple of really nice videos about the project, and it's out there. That's why I'm talking about this now. But
Yeah, it's not top
yeah,
secret right now because this is gonna go for a lot of people really quick.
we basically for about an hour and a half we were in the water just swimming with tons of mantas, and it's so different from every other place in the Maldives because there's no tourist operator. There's no other boats, no other divers, no other snorkelers. It was just the three of us in the water. It was a beautiful day. The visibility was amazing. There was a ton of plankton and so many mantas all around us. So we spent like an hour, 2 hours, and we were so tired that we decided to take a break. And by then, the mantas had already started dispersing like to different directions. So large feeding events are very rare. It doesn't happen that often. It does happen every year. We have fishermen talking about it, but we've never seen it. We've never documented it. So this was the first time. So that was already a pretty great start to the day. By then, I think it had been about around 3 p.m. and we just started moving along the lagoon or along the edge of the outside reef. That's normally how we survey, and the mantis we'll see just on the edge of the reef on the drop off.
Yeah, they
That's
scrape
where
it.
we
They just
normally see
scrape the
them
edge.
traveling. So we keep on driving. It's already a great day. We had the time of our lives with the mantis. And then just outside one of the islands that is currently an operational resort, but at the time it was like in construction. But yeah, we were just outside this island, and Umar, he spots a manta, and then just normally you see one manta, someone jumps in. So because he didn't get the chance to jump in the last big feeding event, he was just on the drone, like trying to count it, trying to get every single manta in one frame, and just having a really hard time. So he said, okay, I'll jump in this time. He jumps in, gets the ID, comes back onto the boat, and is like, guys, this manta, it's got like a small piece of net wrapped around its cephalic fin, but it's like very shy. It's not letting you get close at all. And it just like it's just swam away, and it had, I think, two or three predatory bites as well. Didn't look that good. I didn't know what to do. It was my first time as an intern. So I was just like, so what do we do if Vanta doesn't let us get near to it? What are we gonna do? And my wife and Jazz were just like, we got to try it. And they took one of the fishing knives from the cafe. Jazz jumped in with the camera. Tiana jumped in with the knife. And Umar and I decided to stay on the boat because the manta is already very shy. So we basically drove up in front of the manta, a bit further out, and then the couple dropped the two of them. They got into the water, and they spent like a lot of time in the water with the manta trying to cut the net. And after a while, I jumped in as well. I didn't see this at the start, but Jazz has this all documented, and it's in a video. She made a video about it too. Apparently, at the start, when Tiana, she tried to grab onto the net, the manta was very shy, like very unsure, and didn't really want to be around. But as soon as she grabbed on the net and started cutting it, it knew exactly what was going on. And it just stayed super still. You know how they hover on top of the cleaning stations, barely moving? That manta did exactly the same. It didn't move, and it was letting Tiana cut the rope. But because we were freediving, she had to like cut the rope a little, go up, take a breath, rest for a while, go down, cut the rope a little more. And this went on for like half an hour. And the manta stayed just underneath it. It knew exactly what was going on. And every time she went up for a breath, it would readjust itself, reposition, and it would just be ready for the next time she came down to help. Yeah. And took about 30 minutes to get the net removed. It was very badly damaged. Like the cephalic was broken. There were a lot of predatory bites, and it seemed like it wasn't a fully grown adult. I think the name of the manta is Lenny. I'm never gonna forget it because this is the first manta rescue that I've ever been involved in. And from that day, I understood how smart these animals are. Like, people don't give them enough credit. People don't give sharks and rays enough credit to how smart they are. The second she grabbed onto the rope, it was like, okay, I know they're trying to help me. I'm gonna stay and help them as much as I can. And yeah, the way it like repositioned itself and hovered just beneath her, sometimes even like very close to the surface, so she doesn't have to go down as much. I've never seen that before, ever in my life. It's a pretty great large feeding event of manta rays in one day. Got to rescue a manta. By then it was like around 4:30, 5 p.m. Sun sets at 6. So we decided to go back into the island around 6:15ish. So we start heading back. And all of a sudden we start hearing this blowing noise. And we've never heard that before in Makonolu. It's the first time. The coffee so confused, and he's just like, where is this coming from? And it was coming from inside the lagoon in the shallows. We decided to fly a couple drones and try and find out. And yeah, it didn't take us long to figure out these were whales. We didn't get into the water with it, but we saw it on the drone, and these were blue whales. These were blue whales in the lagoon, in the shallows. Well, it's not that shallow, but you would not expect them to be in the lagoon at all. Like, even if you do see whales, they're always outside in the open oceans.
I could imagine that's either a mother and a juvenile, or two juveniles looking
Yeah.
for food. So that is crazy. That's like the icing on the cake of an amazing day.
It was, the sun was setting at this point, but there was still a lot of mantis like scattered everywhere, and we did not care. We cared about blue whale. We wanted to find the whale, and that's exactly what we were trying to do. We got a couple of
Guys, not
good
now. We
shots
want
on
the
it.
whale. We want the whale. We'll come back for you later.
Yeah, we got a couple of good shots on it. It's on, again, Jazz's Instagram. I think you can find it. We've used the footage in a couple of videos too, but yeah, I've never seen a blue whale in my life. I didn't get in the water with it, but I saw it up close. And it actually surfaced next to a small dinghy of two fishermen, and they were just, here, it's right here. Yeah, so beautiful sunset also at the end of the day. And my mind was blown at this point so many times. I felt like I just needed to go home and sleep. So that was probably the best day I've had working out on a boat. Just getting to be in the water with so many different mantas, getting to rescue one, and then seeing a blue whale. It was, yeah, like you said, the icing on the cake. It was, I still at this point couldn't believe that people actually go out and see these things. You know, you work behind a desk for so long, you can't understand it until you're out there in the field doing this work. That day was life-changing for me. It was
Yeah.
so amazing. We still talk about it all the time.
I couldn't imagine, we set up this segment of the show for impactful stories for listeners to either want to get involved in conservation or understand the realities of that, you're working with wild animals and things don't always go to plan. And stories like the one you just told are so inspirational and so impactful because they are real things that happen. That when you dedicate your life to it, people experience, they go whale watching and they're like, oh, I didn't see any whales. I can personally attest to that there are some days you go out there and you don't see but there are also days where you go out and there is so much beautiful wildlife that you don't even know what to do. You might not be able to capture anything besides like handwritten data at the end of it because there's so much. And then, oh yeah, you're on the water and then you experience a beautiful sunset on top of it all. And those days make the boring days worth it. Yes, there are some pretty parts about the job, but there's parts to any job. But the perks that you get, pretty unmatched. I gotta say, it doesn't get much better.
No, it does not. It was so cool. And you have so many of these days. They're few in number, but when you get to have a day like that, you're just very thankful for the work that you do, and just you get so motivated to like work even harder to protect all these animals.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an amazing story, and I think an amazing addition to our Wild Stories segments that we've had. So thank you for that. Well, I think we're in a good spot to start to wrap up the show. How can people get involved with the RahVeshi project, with Maldives Mantas, and with you? How can people connect with you, get involved, support?
There's a couple of different ways. So currently, the RahVeshi program is the only challenge, the only limitation that we have is funding. So we rely only on external funding, and a lot of that comes through various donors like grants, research grants. And currently, it's not very guaranteed and it's not very consistent. So that's the big challenge that we have, and that's why we haven't been able to conduct the current projects also for full year. It's all seasonal because of that. If anyone wants to make donations, they can visit the Manta Trust webpage and make donations. Any amount, big or small, would help us. Anything would be very, very helpful. Donations is probably the one big thing that would make the biggest difference. The other thing is like if anyone has like old cameras, old gear that they don't use anymore, that can be donated to the team. Even old GoPros, older than even GoPro 3s or 4s, we use as underwater remote cameras in our projects. So that's very helpful way if just basically donating your old gear. The other way is citizen science. If you're ever in the Maldives, wherever in the world, and you dive with mobilites, manta rays, or devil rays, if you're able to get any footage or data of them, even if you don't have the footage, if you saw one, you can always reach out to us. Through our web page, there's something called ID the Manta, or just reach out to us directly on email or socials and let us know of the data. Currently, like most of the data in the Maldives itself, that we've gotten is from citizen science. So because there's so many divers and people, tourist operators in the water, they sent us a lot of ID images, a lot of data, even with the oceanics, because there's so many around the island and we're only able to document a few. Citizen science is extremely important to our cause for the research work. So that would be extremely helpful too. The other thing that you can do is spread the word, talk about mantas, talk about how amazing they are, how smart they are. Just talk about it, spread the word about the importance of protecting not just these animals, but the wider ocean itself. I think those are
Yeah.
probably the best 4 ways to contribute to the project itself.
Yeah. I can definitely attest to the experience that you get swimming with mantas for the first time. It's unbelievable to see something so large be so graceful. And I
Yeah.
definitely, want to encourage people to, take that opportunity if you get the chance. It's one of those animals that it's so docile for the most part, I would say. That you get a full sense of how important conservation is because of those experiences. So I agree 100% there. Another thing I think people can do is they can support the people who are working in projects like this directly. How can people follow you and get involved directly with you in what you're doing? Because I know people are probably going to want to see what you're up to.
Yeah, well, if you want to see or follow the work that's been done in the Maldives, we talk a lot about it on our socials. Our Instagram and Facebook handles are Maldives Manta Conservation, and through these socials, you can follow not just the RahVeshi project, but the wider work that we do here spread out in the Maldives. For me personally, I'm mostly just active on my socials. On my Instagram, it's Fauz Fath-hee, and you probably won't have any other Fauz Fath-hee.
I didn't find any. There's not. They'll find you pretty easily. But
Yeah.
that's awesome to share. Be sure to follow Fauz, follow Manta Trust, is it the Maldives Project? I think that's another one.
Maldives Manta Conservation. Yeah.
Yeah. Maldives Manta Conservation. That's another great one to follow. And stay tuned. There's so much work, being done with the RahVeshi project being so young and so impactful. Some of the content that's being put together, and of course, I know Jazz is involved with it, is top tier. It's so good. So be sure to check that out and support anything that Manta Trust has. But other than that,
Yeah.
Faust, is there anything else you wanna say before we call it?
Just thank you for having me on. I love talking about our project. I love just raving about it and trying to spread the word about it because I really believe in the work that we do. And a lot of people do, not just in the Manta Trust, a lot of community members and people that I work with believe in this project. And thanks to this platform, hopefully we'll have more exposure. Yeah. So thanks for having me. And I just really want to say thanks to my wife. Without her supporting my dreams and goals, I would not be here today. She really, really helped me with everything. So she's an amazing human being. She's also involved with the Manta Trust, currently freelancing mostly, and her name's Tiana. And of course, a big thanks to Jazz and Tam, who pretty much pushed me out into the field, into this work. And without them, I wouldn't be working with the Manta Trust.
Yeah. Well, love that you have such a supportive group around you. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Yeah. Well, all right. That wraps up another episode of Wild and Unprotected. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.